Welcome back to our channel. Today, in quiet reverence, we remember the talented artists who left us too soon, some only just days ago. From the icons of Hollywood to rising stars, they each brought light to the world of entertainment, until they passed away suddenly. If you feel moved by their stories, we invite you to leave a like as a silent tribute in their memory. Thank you. Now, let us begin. A voice of laughter, lost too soon. It is with profound sadness that we remember Bun Hay Mean, the beloved French comedian who tragically passed away at the age of 43 on July 10, 2025, after falling from the 8th floor of a building in Paris. His management confirmed he slipped while trying to retrieve his phone from a balcony gutter, just hours before departing for a performance in Montreal. A rising star of rare wit and emotional depth, he was eagerly preparing to return to the stage, where his spirit thrived. Born in 1981 in Lormont, near Bordeaux, to Cambodian and Chinese parents, Bun's journey began not in the spotlight, but in the silence of hardship. He studied computer science before boldly stepping into the uncertain world of comedy in his mid-20s. His early roles in De l'huile sur le feu and The Chef laid the groundwork for a career that would later captivate audiences across France. Behind the laughter was a man who had endured homelessness in Paris, yet never lost his vision. His humor often spoke for the unheard, laced with sharp cultural insight and resilient warmth. He rose with dignity. In 2014, the Jamel Comedy Club became his launching pad. His debut show, Chinois Marrant, redefined representation and became a beacon for second-generation voices. In recent years, he lit up screens in Asterix and Obelix, The Middle Kingdom, and led the ambitious Kill Bun tour, proving he had not only rebuilt his life, but elevated it through art. Bun Hay Mean leaves behind a legacy of courage, grace, and unforgettable presence. If he touched your heart, we invite you to share a memory, a laugh, or a farewell in his honor.
On this one, I like the sax here, I like the singing here, I like the drums here, I like the keyboard here, I like...
Mark Snow, the iconic composer best known for creating the haunting theme of The X-Files, has tragically died at the age of 78. He passed away peacefully on July 4, 2025, at his home in Connecticut, surrounded by family. With every eerie motif and lingering note, Mark Snow gave voice to mystery itself, offering television one of its most unforgettable sounds. Born Martin Fulterman in Brooklyn on August 26, 1946, he studied at Juilliard before beginning his career in orchestral music. After moving to Los Angeles in 1974, he transitioned into television and film scoring. His early works included The Boy in the Plastic Bubble and many TV films, but it was The X-Files that brought his name to millions of homes. His journey was not without challenges. Moving from classical roots to commercial television required humility and quiet strength. As the industry evolved, so did he, adapting with grace and conviction. In the late 1980s, he pioneered the use of home studios, helping shape a new era in television composition. He went on to score Smallville, Blue Bloods, Ghost Whisperer, and more than 200 episodes of The X-Files, earning 15 Emmy nominations and 30 ASCAP awards. Mark Snow leaves behind a legacy of sound that defined how we experience suspense and emotion on screen. We invite you to share your memories, tributes, or final thoughts in honor of a composer whose music will continue to echo for generations. Young Noble, the beloved rapper and final member chosen by Tupac Shakur to join the legendary group Outlawz, has tragically died at the age of 47. He passed away on July 4th in Atlanta, Georgia, reportedly by suicide. His sudden loss has left the hip-hop world in shock, and his absence echoes deeply through the culture he helped shape with quiet strength and unwavering loyalty. Born Rufus Lee Cooper III on March 21, 1978, in Sierra Madre, California, Noble spent his childhood between California and New Jersey. At just 16, he returned to the West Coast, and was personally invited by Tupac to join Outlawz in early 1996. His debut came with 4 standout performances on the iconic album The Don Killuminati, The 7-Day Theory, including the unforgettable anthem Hail Mary. The death of Tupac months later was a heartbreaking loss. Yet Noble never turned away from the mission they shared. He remained steadfast, carrying the torch for truth and brotherhood in a world often clouded by pain and distraction. With grace in hardship, Noble launched a solo career beginning with Noble Justice in 2002. Over the years, he released 8 albums, including The Last Outlaw in 2024, continuing to speak with clarity, honesty, and a deep spiritual grounding. Young Noble leaves behind a legacy of lyrical truth, cultural pride, and inner resilience. We invite you to remember him by sharing a song, a tribute, or a prayer, honoring a man who stood as a voice for the voiceless and who still inspires strength in silence.
Probably half of my life in the United States, and I grew up half of my life in Australia. So there are many
Julian McMahon, the beloved Australian actor best known for his unforgettable roles in Nip Tuck, Charmed, and Fantastic Four, has tragically died at the age of 56. He passed away on July 2nd, 2025, in Clearwater, Florida, following a courageous battle with cancer. His passing marks a profound loss in the world of television and film, where his quiet strength and deep presence touched millions. Born in 1968, Julian was the son of former Australian Prime Minister William McMahon. He began his career in modeling before transitioning to acting with early roles in Australian soap operas such as The Power, The Passion, and Home and Away. Upon moving to the United States, he gained attention in Another World and Profiler, steadily building a name for himself through intensity and depth. Though fame followed, his career was not without challenges. Shifting from daytime television to leading roles in Hollywood demanded resilience, discipline, and personal transformation, qualities he embodied with grace in hardship. His portrayal of Cole Turner in Charmed introduced him to a younger generation, but it was his role as Dr. Christian Troy in Nip Tuck that defined his legacy, a performance of charisma, complexity, and emotional vulnerability. Julian McMahon's final years saw him return to drama in FBI, Most Wanted, where he portrayed Special Agent Jesse LaCroix with quiet authority. He leaves behind a legacy of talent, elegance, and sincerity. We invite you to share your memories and tributes in honor of a man who brought so much life to the screen and whose light endures far beyond it.
But he was so, I realized later why people would go to see a Bogart picture.
Michael Madsen, the iconic actor best known for his unforgettable roles in Reservoir Dogs, Kill Bill, and Donnie Brasco, has tragically died at the age of 67. He was found unresponsive at his home in Malibu, California, on July 3rd, and was pronounced dead at the scene. His representative confirmed cardiac arrest as the cause. His sudden passing marks a profound loss for cinema, where his presence commanded every frame with quiet strength and raw authenticity. Born in Chicago in 1957, Madsen began his film career in 1983 with War Games. His rugged charisma and gravel-toned voice quickly earned him roles that left indelible marks. He gained global fame as Mr. Blonde in Quentin Tarantino's Reservoir Dogs, and later as Bud in Kill Bill. His filmography spanned genres with standout roles in Thelma and Louise, Donnie Brasco, Sin City, and The Hateful Eight. Behind the acclaim, Madsen faced personal trials and professional pauses. But through every storm, he returned with resilience, never losing sight of his artistic truth. In recent years, he turned to independent cinema with renewed purpose, starring in Resurrection Road and Concessions. He was also preparing to publish a book of poetry titled Tears for My Father, reflecting a man seeking peace and meaning through words. Michael Madsen leaves behind a legacy of unforgettable performances, poetic intensity, an unwavering commitment to his craft. We invite you to honor his memory by sharing a favorite film, quote, or personal reflection on a life that burned bright, on screen and in spirit.
And welcome back to my YouTube channel. This has been actually so much fun doing this.
Sophia Hutchins, the beloved entrepreneur and trusted friend of Caitlyn Jenner, best known for her leadership of the Caitlyn Jenner Foundation and appearances on I Am Kate, has tragically died at the age of 29. She passed away on the morning of July 2nd in a devastating ATV accident near Malibu, California, after her vehicle veered off a mountain road and fell over 300 feet into a ravine. Her sudden loss leaves behind a deep void in the hearts of those who knew her vibrant spirit and quiet strength. Born in 1996 in Bellevue, Washington, Sophia graduated from Pepperdine University in 2019 with a degree in economics and finance. A driven young woman with bold ideas, she quickly made her mark as the founder and CEO of the health tech brand Lumisol. Her natural leadership led her to become a key figure in Jenner's public and philanthropic life. Sophia's path was not without challenge. Entering the public eye alongside one of the most recognized figures in the world, she faced immense scrutiny. But she met it with grace, humility, and unwavering clarity of purpose. Her quiet resilience helped guide the Caitlyn Jenner Foundation in advancing transgender equality and access to care. Privately, she offered emotional stability and thoughtful counsel to those around her. Sophia Hutchins leaves behind a legacy of innovation, loyalty, and hope. We invite you to remember her not only for what she achieved, but for the light she gave to others. Share your thoughts or a moment of gratitude below, in memory of a life that ended far too soon, but touched so many.
Woe unto them that rise up early in the morning, that they may follow strong drink, that continue until night.
Jimmy Swaggart, the iconic televangelist and gospel singer whose fiery sermons and soulful music inspired millions, has died at 90. He passed away on July 1st following a major cardiac event, just weeks after being hospitalized on Father's Day. His passing marks the end of an era for American Pentecostal broadcasting and gospel music. Born in Faraday, Louisiana in 1935, Swaggart rose from humble beginnings to build one of the largest evangelical empires of the 20th century. By the 1980s, his televised ministry reached over 2 million households and brought in $150 million annually. A gifted musician, he recorded more than 200 gospel albums and remained a staple in church homes across the world. In 1988, a public scandal involving prostitution shattered his public image and led to his defrocking. But rather than retreat, Swaggart faced his downfall with a tearful, now famous confession, "I have sinned," offering a moment of raw humility rarely seen in public figures. He rebuilt with quiet strength, founding the non-denominational Sun Life Broadcasting Network in 2010. Through radio, television, and revival music, he reconnected with followers old and new. Just 1 month before his death, Swaggart was honored with induction into the Southern Gospel Music Association Hall of Fame. His legacy is not only one of faith and talent, but also of resilience and grace in hardship.
Well, in the original script of Jedi, he didn't appear.
Kenneth Colley, the iconic British actor best known for his role as Admiral Piet in the original Star Wars trilogy, has died at 87. He passed away peacefully on June 30th at his home in Kent, England, after contracting COVID-19 and developing pneumonia. His quiet departure, surrounded by close friends, marks the end of a remarkable 6-decade career that quietly shaped generations of filmgoers. Born in Manchester in 1937, Colley began acting in the early 1960s, swiftly building a reputation as one of Britain's most versatile character actors. He appeared in more than 150 roles across film, television, and stage, with early credits in BBC productions like The Planemakers and A for Andromeda. His gravitas brought depth to every part he played, from biblical figures to military officers. While never at the center of celebrity, Kali faced the challenges of sustaining a career that spanned decades in an ever-shifting industry. Yet through humility and steady dedication, he remained a sought-after talent. Even after health setbacks in his later years, his passion for performance endured. In 2014, Kali described his portrayal of Estragon in Waiting for Godot as one of his most fulfilling roles. That choice reflects the depth of his artistic soul, drawn to work that questioned, endured, and transcended. Beyond cinema, Kenneth was known for his love of gardening, art collecting, and vintage cars. As Michael Palin movingly said, "We've lost a very special actor and a very good man." His legacy lives on in each unforgettable presence he brought to life. Maureen Hingert, the pioneering Sri Lankan actress and former Miss Universe runner-up, has died at 88. She passed away peacefully on June 30th at Huntington Hospital in Pasadena, California, due to liver failure. Her passing marks the end of a graceful and historic journey, from Colombo to Hollywood, with quiet strength and radiant dignity. Born in 1937, Hingert rose to international prominence at age 18, when she won Miss Ceylon, and became the second runner-up at the 1955 Miss Universe pageant. The global spotlight led her to Hollywood, where she signed with Universal and began appearing in major studio productions. In an era when South Asian representation was scarce, Hingert faced the challenge of navigating a film industry that often sidelined women of color. Yet she persevered. Adopting the screen name Jana Davi, she took on roles in acclaimed films like The King and I and popular westerns including Gunmen from Laredo and Fort Bowie. Despite a brief career, her presence on screen was unforgettable. She chose to step away from acting in the early 1960s to raise a family, embodying a quiet yet enduring resolve. Her daughter, Marisa Zamparelli, reflected, "It was a beautiful and peaceful passing." And indeed, Maureen Hingert's life was a legacy of beauty, courage, and timeless poise. She will be remembered not only for the paths she walked, but for the doors she opened, for those who followed.
I was opening my school in South Africa, and I had brought...
There are lives that unfold like symphonies, filled with crescendos and quiet notes, trials that burn like fire and recoveries that heal like rain. Then, there is the life of Oprah Winfrey, a woman who didn't just endure the storms of fate, but harvested them into a legacy of light. If you've ever watched a sunrise with your coffee and found yourself whispering, "I still have time," this story is for you. And if Oprah Winfrey ever changed the way you thought, loved, or forgave, please share your memory below. Because some stories are too important not to echo. She was born on January 29, 1954, in the rural backroads of Kosciuszko, Mississippi. Red clay roads, cotton fields, and shotgun shacks defined her earliest world. Her mother, Vernita Lee, was barely a teenager, working far away as a housemaid in Milwaukee. So Oprah was raised by her grandmother, Hattie Mae, in a home without running water, but filled with scriptures. By age 3, she was reciting Bible verses to neighbors barefoot on creaky wooden floors, sunlight slanting through the stained glass of their modest church. The child didn't know it yet, but those Sunday performances were the birth of a storyteller. But brilliance couldn't shield her from cruelty. She wore potato sack dresses, faced ridicule from classmates, and learned early that being smart, black, and female was not protection from pain. At 6, she moved north to Milwaukee to live with her mother, and exchanged southern stillness for urban chaos. She was passed from one caregiver to another, enduring unspeakable abuse starting at age 9. The trauma silenced her joy and fueled rebellion. Skipping school, stealing, running away. At 13, she was nearly sent to juvenile detention, but the facility was full. A twist of fate she would later call divine delay. By 14, she was pregnant. Her baby died shortly after birth. Grief wrapped around her like a second skin. That same year, she boarded a Greyhound bus to Nashville to live with her father, Vernon Winfrey, a stern barber and former serviceman who believed discipline could outmuscle despair. He enforced curfews, demanded book reports, and required her to memorize scripture and poetry. If you don't learn 5 new words a day, he warned, you won't eat dinner. Harsh, yes, but he saved her life. Under his roof, her defiance turned into drive. At East Nashville High School, Oprah flourished. She won statewide oratory contests, earned a scholarship to Tennessee State University, and began studying communications. At just 19, she was offered a full-time anchor job at WLAC-TV, becoming the first black female news anchor in Nashville. The choice was clear: step into the unknown or stay in the classroom. She chose the light. What followed was her first major comeback, not from scandal, but from silence. The newsroom was smoky and brisk. The teleprompter hummed. Oprah stood in front of the camera with the same sincerity she once reserved for church pews. Her voice, once booming with gospel, now softened for living rooms. She studied Barbara Walters, rehearsed diction until sunrise, and won local beauty pageants, earning the title Miss Black Tennessee. These contests were not vanity. They were strategy. Each crown brought her closer to mentors who saw what the world would soon see, a veteran mentor in the making, with an unmatched ability to marry vulnerability with command. In 1984, she was hired to host AM Chicago, a floundering morning show. Within months, she outperformed Phil Donahue, the king of daytime. Her weapon? Authenticity. She laughed without restraint. She cried without shame. She listened, really listened, to everyone, whether they were single mothers or senators. I was never just interviewing, she later said. I was excavating truth. 2 years later, on September 8, 1986, The Oprah Winfrey Show was born. Broadcast from Harpo Studios, an old Chicago armory she transformed into a creative sanctuary, the show wasn't just successful, it was revolutionary. Taboos were tackled live: child abuse, addiction, AIDS. She spoke candidly about her own trauma. And in doing so, Oprah turned daytime TV into a national sobriety journey, helping millions shed shame and find their voice. By the 1990s, she wasn't just a talk show host. She was a cultural impact unto herself. Oprah's book club made unknown authors household names. Her Favorite Things episodes launched small businesses into overnight fame. Behind the scenes, Harpo Productions secured a profit-sharing model that made her America's first black female billionaire. But she didn't see money as the goal. Wealth, she once said, is just a tool. The real power is what you do with it. At her peak, over 10 million Americans tuned in daily. Her words traveled to 140 countries. Presidents came to her couch. Survivors came for solace. Every interview, every episode was a stitch in a larger tapestry, a legacy not of fame, but of service. And yet, this was only the first act. What followed was loss, reckoning, redemption. But even legacies forged in sunlight carry shadows. At the peak of her cultural power, Oprah Winfrey stood on a stage before millions and wheeled out a red radio flyer wagon filled with 67 pounds of animal fat, the exact weight she had recently lost on a liquid diet. Dressed in a size 10 pair of Calvin Klein jeans, she smiled through applause. The camera zoomed in. Viewers marveled, but inside, she was dizzy, dehydrated, exhausted. That episode aired in 1988. It became iconic and quietly devastating. Within months, Oprah regained the weight. She learned in the most public of ways, that redemption built on starvation collapses under real-life gravity. "It taught me," she later said, "that you can't hate your body into change. You have to meet it with love." This was the beginning of a sobriety journey unlike any other, one not about alcohol or substances, but about power, shame, and the war women wage against their own reflections. The media was unkind. Tabloids mocked her yo-yoing figure. Late-night hosts made her the punchline. Yet Oprah refused to disappear. Instead, she turned the lens around. In the 1990s, she began speaking openly about her struggle with food as a form of emotional anesthesia. She walked Lake Michigan's shoreline at dawn, swapping fried catfish for grilled salmon, then meditated before meetings. She invited endocrinologists on air to discuss hypothyroidism, the metabolic disorder slowing her system. "There's no shame in science," she told viewers. "Knowledge is liberation." But the body wasn't the only battlefield. In private, she was unpacking the deeper wounds, the silent death of her infant son when she was just 14, the loss of her grandmother Hattie Mae, and the bitter complexity of her relationship with her mother Vernita. These weren't headlines. These were earthquakes. In 1989, another tremor. Her half-brother Jeffrey died of AIDS-related complications. In an era when stigma screamed louder than science, Oprah paid for his care and funeral, then turned her platform into a public redemption arc for those suffering in silence. "What is this here to teach me?" she began to ask, a question she would later offer to guests sitting across from her on that famous yellow couch. By the early 2000s, after 2 decades of televising other people's healing, Oprah started claiming her own. She began intense therapy, journaled every morning with a fountain pen she kept beside her bed. She pulled away from celebrity gossip, choosing instead to explore spirituality on air. The result was Super Soul Sundays, a quieter corner of broadcast that spoke louder than any headline. And still, life tested her resolve. In 2007, her beloved golden retriever, Gracie, choked on a toy and died in her arms. Oprah wept on air, not for the cameras, but for the child inside her who never got to grieve. "I realized I was still mourning losses from decades ago," she confessed. Gracie opened that door. The public responded not with mockery, but with letters, thousands of them, from people who had lost pets, parents, partners. The couch had become a confessional. The audience had become community. Her body, once a symbol of ridicule, now became a laboratory for change. She underwent knee surgeries in 2021. She chronicled her rehabilitation, the pool exercises, the resistance bands, the slow dignity of climbing stairs again. "There's a kind of joy," she wrote in Oprah Daily, "in doing something you once thought you'd never do again." It wasn't about youth. It was about agency. In 2015, she invested in Weight Watchers, bought a 10% stake, and became its most visible ambassador. But she didn't promise quick fixes. She documented modest weekly losses, celebrated small victories, and told viewers, "Your worth is not in your waistline." Then, in late 2023, she revealed her use of a GLP-1 medication to help regulate appetite. A medical decision met not with scandal, but with respect, because this time she controlled the narrative. This was no shameful secret. This was science, transparency, and comeback wrapped in candor. "I want every woman to know, you're not alone," she said. "Your struggle is real, and help is not failure." Through it all, Oprah continued to give. She donated proceeds to mental health clinics and the National Alliance for Mental Illness. She funded public health scholarships. She turned personal suffering into systemic change. This wasn't charity, it was cultural impact, and she mentored fiercely. At the Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy for Girls in South Africa, a school she personally designed and visits often, she teaches young women not just academics, but how to lead with empathy. "Every girl I mentor is a piece of the girl I once was," she says. "We build futures out of the parts we used to hide." Her own mentors, too, passed on. Maya Angelou died in 2014. The poet who called Oprah her daughter-sister friend left behind not just wisdom, but a void. Oprah honored her the only way she knew how, by producing documentaries that would preserve Angelo's voice for generations unborn. At home, she found quiet rituals. Early mornings in Montecito, sipping green tea under sycamore trees, small batch tequila tastings with Stedman, watching Korean dramas not for escapism, but for storytelling technique. She calls this her radical harvest era, a time not of slowing down, but of planting deeper. And somewhere between therapy sessions and script green lights, she wrote on a yellow post-it, now framed above her desk, "Use your story. Change the story." That line has traveled continents. It has launched support groups, inspired tattoos, anchored TED Talks. It's more than a quote. It's a legacy. The girl once mocked for wearing dresses made of potato sacks had reclaimed every inch of her identity, not through revenge, but through redemption. She had become not just a broadcaster, but a builder, not just a survivor, but a teacher. And this time, the applause didn't come from the studio. It came from the world she had helped heal. Today, Oprah Winfrey rises before the sun kisses her Montecito estate. The air smells of lavender and eucalyptus. She walks slowly, deliberately, along the paths she designed herself, where avocado trees planted from seeds brought home from global journeys now bear fruit. Each morning begins the same, a 20-minute transcendental meditation, followed by what she calls a gratitude walk. There, beneath the filtered California light, the sobriety journey of a lifetime continues, not in resistance, but in reverence. Her health, once a battlefield, is now a canvas of quiet victories. Post-surgery, she shares her aquatic workouts with fans on Instagram Live, not as spectacle, but as solidarity. She speaks candidly about menopause, knee recovery, and her GLP-1 medication, offering science where shame used to dwell. Setbacks are data, she reminds us, not defeat. Oprah lives not just in luxury, but in legacy. Harpo Studios has evolved into a content empire spanning OWN, Oprah Daily, Super Soul podcasts, and the Apple TV Plus revival of Oprah's Book Club. There, in a sunlit studio, she hosts dialogues with voices like Ta-Nehisi Coates and Brené Brown, transforming solitary books into global seminars. Companion guides are uploaded daily. Comment sections read like campfire circles. The cultural impact of her work lives not only on screens, but in souls. In South Africa, the Leadership Academy she founded nears its 20th anniversary. Graduates are now doctors, lawyers, engineers, each one a veteran mentor in the making. Oprah hosts summits on campus, where guests like Trevor Noah and Michelle Obama walk beside the very girls they once inspired from afar. In 2023, when wildfires struck Maui, Oprah opened her own land as a logistics base, distributing generators and filtration kits. She then seeded a $10 million relief fund, matched dollar for dollar by her viewers in under 48 hours. "If you have more than you need," she said, "build longer tables, not taller fences." It's not just a philosophy, it's policy. Her philanthropy team now operates like a news bureau, tracking crisis zones and deploying aid with the precision of journalists. And even in entertainment, she lifts others. OWN now produces scripted series helmed by first-time showrunners. Ava DuVernay's Origin, which Oprah executive produced, earned 6 Oscar nominations. In Tiana, a Disney Plus series, she voices a Bayou matriarch, reprising her motherly role from The Princess and the Frog, but now with the weight of lived wisdom. Her circle remains tight. Stedman Graham, her partner of nearly 4 decades, shares tequila tastings and streaming marathons of Korean dramas. Gayle King, her best friend, remains a lighthouse. Her dogs, Sadie, Sunny, and Luke, are constant companions. And when asked why she hasn't officially retired, Oprah simply smiles and says, "The oak tree on my lawn was transplanted at 80. Look at it now." In 2025, she launched Oprah, a compassionate AI wellness chatbot trained on decades of her show transcripts. Already, it's bridging healthcare gaps in underserved libraries and community centers. A comeback not of person, but of purpose. Her memoir, Tender Power, is set for release next year. Broadway has already optioned her musical adaptation of The Water Dancer, and talks are underway for a televised monthly town hall she jokingly calls the grown-up internet, a space for civil discourse in an age of noise. Still, her most powerful work may be what she does off stage, quietly paying tuition for strangers, calling viewers back who once wrote her in despair, mentoring not just girls in Africa, but young producers in Hollywood who never thought they'd be heard. You define your own life, she says. Don't let other people write your script. And then there's the final image, the one that closes this tribute not with fanfare, but with feeling. It's early morning. Oprah, now 71, walks alone under a Montecito sky painted in soft gold. She pauses beside the oak tree, its limbs stretched in defiant bloom. In one hand, her leather-bound gratitude journal. In the other, a pen. She writes 3 simple lines. Thank you for this breath. Thank you for this path. Thank you for the chance to begin again. She closes the book, exhales, and smiles, not as a queen, not as a billionaire, but as a woman who reclaimed her own story and offered it to the world. What I know for sure, she whispers, is that every sunrise is an invitation to heal. And that, dear viewers, is her legacy. If Oprah's story touched you, if it reminded you of your own strength or helped you see beauty after brokenness, please subscribe, share, and comment below. Because comeback is not a destination, it's a choice, one we can make again and again and again.